Hello, Falcon fans. Thank you for tuning in to On the Wing, the Cedar Crest Athletics podcast. I am LJ Smith, the Director of Athletic Communications at Cedar Crest College, and I will be your host. In this episode, you will hear the conversation I had with Alec Duncan, the head coach of the cross country and track and field programs. We talked about his time as a student athlete, including his days as a Moravian College Greyhound, then discussed how he began his coaching career and now starting the track and field program here at Cedar Crest. And thank you again for joining us on the Wing. I am here with Alec Duncan, the head coach for both the cross country and track and field programs. How are you doing today, Alec?
Doing well. How about yourself, LJ?
I'm great. Thank you for being a part of today's podcast. I appreciate you taking time to sit down and kind of talk about yourself as well as the programs you coach. So let's get into it. We'll start with you. The first half of this episode will be about you and your athletic career. So to begin, when did you start participating in cross country and or track?
So I started competing in track first. I played just about every other sport under the sun growing up. And I started my high school career playing soccer and joined track and field team really as a way to stay in shape. And I just had a really good relationship with the guys on the distance squad on my high school team. And they convinced me to come out to run cross country. It didn't take too much convincing because I was a better runner than I was a soccer player. So started running cross country my sophomore year and haven't stopped since.
Awesome. So you weren't just, that wasn't like your go-to sport initially. So playing soccer, every other sport, baseball, growing up, and then getting to high school is when you kind of found out about exactly what cross country was, track, the same deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I did have some track accolades prior to high school. I won a town-wide 400-meter race.
Okay.
Fourth grade. But yeah, I played soccer, basketball, baseball. So yeah, I played those and really loved and still do love soccer. Just like I said, I was a much better runner than I was soccer player. I wasn't aggressive enough. So
Okay. And so you got to high school, you learn about track and field, cross country. Did you know that you had the potential to compete in college or run at the collegiate rank?
on a personal level, not really. I obviously, knew of college athletics. I don't think I was aware of Division III when I was, a freshman, sophomore in high school. But, my dad was a high school coach throughout his professional career. So he knew all about, the world of athletics and college athletics. So as I started to, go on in my high school career to junior year, senior year, and started getting some letters from D3 programs and some D2 programs in the Northeast. My dad kind of sat me down and said, you can do something with this. And just kind of took it from there.
So growing up in New Jersey, correct? So
Yep.
outside the Newark area, was that something that your school was known for, track and field, cross country, that you were able to thrive in?
Not specifically. Track and field, we had a couple really solid athletes. We had a female hurdle athlete that ended up going D1. If I remember, I think she went to Temple. But I mean, she was incredible to watch, obviously. But that program specifically didn't really churn out college athletes. So I think I was the first, from the cross country program, at least in a couple of years, to move on to competing at the college level.
Very cool. And accolades of any sort? Obviously, you said the town 400,
Yeah.
but any accolades in high school maybe that stood out for you, cross country and or track?
Yeah, I'd say I had a more successful in terms of accolades career in cross country. I won my senior year. I won our league championship as well as our team. So that was the first time the team had won in 40 years, I believe.
Wow.
I don't know about the individual title. I wasn't as concerned about that. And then as far as track and field goes, I had earned spots at the sectional championship and things like that, and got 5th, 6th place medals, but definitely had a stronger showing in cross country.
That's great. So you're getting recruited, you're getting letters from Division III and Division II schools for that matter, but you end up at Moravian College in Bethlehem. Both you and I graduates. What was your experience like as a student athlete at Moravian?
It was incredibly positive. I think, I know the reason I went into college coaching and specifically D3 college coaching is because of my experiences there. I can only speak from my experience at Moravian, but I would imagine it's pretty similar, or was pretty similar to what the D3 experience is throughout. We had a very successful program when I was there. We won 2 cross country team titles. I think we won 7 indoor and outdoor track and field titles. It was great to be a part of that team. It was great to contribute to some conference titles.
So you competed in all 3 seasons. So the fall, the winter, and the spring. The fall being cross country season, the winter indoor track and field season, and then outdoor in the spring. What was it like competing all year round?
To be fair, it's really all I knew.
Okay.
When I started track in high school, like I said, I played soccer. So we did soccer in the fall, and then I started doing winter track and outdoor track, freshman year. So I had been competing fall, winter, spring for 4 years prior to that. So it was just kind of, the grind that I knew. It wasn't until really my career as a college athlete was winding down that I realized, oh, wow, we are training for 10 months out of the year without really a whole lot of breaks. But yeah, it was really all I knew. Is kind of corny as that sounds, I guess.
So you participating in all 3 seasons, cross country is its own beast compared to indoor and outdoor track, but different events in indoor and outdoor track. What events did you compete in? Now, obviously, cross country is distance running, but talk a little bit about the events you competed in when you were in indoor and outdoor track as well.
So in outdoor track, I was a steeplechaser. That is probably hands down my favorite event. I also, would dabble with the 5K and had probably a bit more success in the 1500 than I did the longer distances. Indoor track, it was mostly, mile and 5K. My junior or senior year, the Landmark Conference added the 3K to the conference championship. So we started doing a couple more 3Ks, and that distance really seemed to fit me well. I like to think in my heart that I'm a miler, but I don't know how true that is. I guess you'd have to ask Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Jesse, definitely a big influence and a part of the reason why you went to Moravian. And one of the big things that probably helped was you were named, I believe, Rookie of the Year in the Landmark Conference your freshman year to go along with other accolades. But reflecting on that, what did that mean to you? I know we've had this conversation before, but what did it mean to you about yourself as an athlete as well?
That Rookie of the Year award or honor really, I think, solidified me sticking with cross country and track through my college career. I talked about it a little bit on the CSAC fireside chat that we had back in the fall. When I started my career as a college athlete, I wasn't entirely bought into the idea of being a college athlete, and getting that award, seeing that I could compete at that level right off the bat was on a personal level, it made me obviously feel great to see that I could hang. And then from a team perspective, I mean, the guys on the team were ecstatic. I remember Matt Lutza was still on the team. He was a senior at the time, and he kind of pulled me aside afterwards and said, "You just did something that nobody on this team has done before." And that meant a lot, to come from a senior who had gone to the national championship for cross country, who was, someone that I wanted to train and race like. So it was really solidified my place on the team. And then to my sophomore year, won the conference title in the steeplechase. That was like another, it's great to win individual titles, but finish that race, and the guys from the distance team all ran onto the track, and just we all kind of hugged, and it was a super cool moment, one that I don't think I'll ever forget.
And touching on that, cross country, track and field, you compete in individual events. Obviously, there's relays. Individualized events doesn't mean it's not a team sport. So
Mhm.
you having those moments with your other teammates, congratulating you on an event you did, but that team feeling had to
Mhm.
mean something. Obviously, like you mentioned, is that something that you feel kept you in the sport as long as it did?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, distance running, you kind of form this relationship with whoever's on the team. You're spending, when you're out on your long run, you're out for 90 plus minutes, or even just a standard recovery run. When I was, at my highest mileage weeks, we'd be out there for 8 to 9 miles on any given day. So you're, that's a lot of quality time with people.
Yeah.
And then when you get into some, more challenging workouts, everybody's doing the same thing and struggling through it together. So there is certainly a bond, maybe in shared misery.
So just for the viewers that might not understand, what exactly is a typical week at least for a cross country athlete, from what you experienced at Moravian? We'll touch on what that is for Cedar Crest, but you as an athlete, as a senior at Moravian, what was a practice like?
So, we had our long runs, obviously, that was once a week. And these were runs of anywhere from, on a shorter long run day, 10 miles to I think my longest got up to 15. Recovery runs Tuesdays, Thursdays. Those were our recovery days. So anywhere from 6 to, 9 or 10 miles, depending on who you are and how you feel. Mondays and Wednesdays were our big workout days. Anything from mile repeats to some ladders to I don't think we ever did a Michigan, but for anybody that knows about the world of distance running, just tough workouts where you're going fast for anywhere from 400 to 2,000 meters with not a whole lot of recovery and just working the systems.
And then you mentioned, I believe you said 7 track combined indoor and outdoor championships, not just one championship you've experienced, but 7 as an individual and a member of the Greyhounds track and field team. What does that mean to you in post-graduation? You looking back on that now?
I think we were really spoiled, might not be the best word, but you kind of take it for granted. I remember the week going into conferences, the coaching staff would always be sitting in the office and crunching numbers, and this guy needs to do this and this girl needs to do that to make sure we win. And on the athletic side of things, I think a lot of us would just think, as long as we do what we're supposed to do, we're going to walk away with the win. And that wasn't, it sounds very conceited, and but it wasn't. I think it just shows that everyone that was there was ready to compete and, wanted to bring that title home. It's something that program continues to do. They go out and they really fight for that landmark title. And I know some schools have really been giving them a run for it lately, but it was always interesting. But I don't think I ever contemplated really how unique that is, and really how special that is. I only experienced losing that championship once, and it was definitely not a great mood.
Yeah.
To be the one team that didn't do it, but we bounced back and came back pretty strong in indoors the next year.
And you've been able to compete with a lot of high quality athletes, not just at Moravian, but going up against them in conference championships. Who sticks out to you that pushed you the hardest? If it's a teammate, if it's someone that you raced against that you knew was giving you a run for your money?
So there's really 2 guys that I have to give credit to for that. The first was, I guess, the closest thing I had to a training partner at Moravian, is Dylan Farrell. He was a cross-country All-American. I don't know if he still has it, but I know he's had the school 1,500 meter record and things like that. He was just a great athlete. So to be able to go to practice with him every day and get in some really good, quality long runs, recovery days, things like that, have somebody to chase in workouts, that was always great to have. From a competitive standpoint, Colin Eberhardt over at Susquehanna, he was another steeplechaser. There were, I think, 3 steeplechase conference championships. He got the better of them. I think he's got at least 2 of those titles. I always knew if he was in a race that my goal was to beat him. I didn't care who else was in that race or where we finished in that race, but I always wanted to beat him. But at the same time, when he did beat me, which unfortunately for me was more often than I might like to admit, but I knew I always got the best out of any race when he was in it. So the first person I talked to afterwards was him, and just had to thank him for, taking me to my limit every time. Yeah, it was great to have not just a solid training partner, but also somebody I knew to look out for on the line.
Yeah, true competition in its purest form. Someone that's going to push you no matter what, but still having a relationship and a friendship with that person as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with any sport at a high competitive level, there's always going to be some degree of respect. But I think, or at least I believe, that in track and field and cross country, that you really understand that respect a little bit more, because you're all going through the same thing, right? You're all running probably the same amount of miles every week. You're probably doing the same workout, if not the same week, the week before, the week after. So you're all going through the same thing, and you get the grind. You get the mental struggle of the sport. So it's just, great to have that camaraderie amongst, track and field athletes.
Awesome. Well, we're going to step aside briefly for a couple of our sponsors, but we'll pick it back up with the coaching career of yourself, Alec Duncan, the head cross country and track and field coach here at Cedar Crest. So we'll step aside and we'll be right back. Are you looking to get your hands on some Cedar Crest Falcons gear? Head over to cedarcrestathletics.com and then click the link under the tab Fan Zone to find our Falcons Sideline store. Each month, there is a promotion that offers a discount to all things Falcons, from hats, hoodies, shirts, and more. Head to our Falcons Sideline store today, powered by BSN Sports. Stout Associates Certified Public Accountants provide accounting, tax, and consulting services to small and family-owned businesses by becoming a part of the team. To find out more, visit stoutcpas.com. Stout CPA is proud to sponsor Cedar Crest College Athletics. Epic Tours is the exclusive charter bus company for Cedar Crest College Athletics. Specializing in group travel by motor coach, Epic Tours can accommodate trips ranging from corporate events to wedding shuttles to cross-country trips. When planning your next trip, call Epic Tours at 844-EPIC-BUS or visit them on the web at epictoursgroup.com. The Lehigh Valley Health Network is the primary healthcare provider for Cedar Crest College Athletics. LVHN, a passion for better medicine. And welcome back to On the Wing. I am joined with head cross country and track and field coach Alec Duncan. Thank you for being here once again. We just talked about your athletic career. Now we'll move on to the coaching side of things. So to get this part started, when and where did you begin your coaching career?
So I started as the cross country assistant at Freedom High School over in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. The head cross country coach there was a Moravian alum. I'd had a couple conversations with Coach Jesse as my, college career ended about how I wanted to get into coaching. He knew Bobby T, who is still the cross country coach over there. He knew Bobby was looking for an assistant, so he threw my name. I had met Bobby a couple times at different meets and things like that. He was always kind of around, being a Moravian alum, so I got to know him a little bit. So it was a pretty nice, easy transition moving on to work with someone that I had a little bit of a relationship with. And then as that season ended, I don't exactly remember how things happened, but I ended up helping him out with the spring track and field program over at Freedom as well. He was an accountant at the time. I think he obviously still is. So he got pretty busy in the spring. So I, just kind of gave him a hand with getting guys and girls workouts and making sure everybody was where they needed to be when they needed to be.
Nice. You were there for a full season, cross country, track and field. Any type of athletes that you got to coach that did pretty well?
Yeah, one in particular sticks out. Will Alpa went on to compete down at the University of Richmond. They, I believe, only still have a cross country program, but that's a Division I program. Will's a great athlete, a really good kid. He qualified for the state cross country championship and also qualified for the state championship in the mile. So I know, that was a great experience for me as a coach, but more importantly for him as an athlete. I know that was one of the few athletes that we had been able to get to the state track meet and the distance side of things, at least. So it was one, great for the school and the program, but it was a great experience for him as an athlete to be able to get to Hershey and to compete against, the fastest guys in the state.
Absolutely. So now you're there for a year and you join the Cedar Crest staff as a part-time coach. How did you come about to Cedar Crest?
I ran at the college level with Donnie Noble, who was the coach here before I was, and he was moving on to some other things. So he reached out to me. He knew that I was trying to get into college coaching, so he gave my name to Dr. Snook, and I guess the rest is history. I met with Dr. Snook, then started in July of 2015, 16.
So you've been here for a couple of years and then you get promoted to a full-time head coach. What did that mean to you that Cedar Crest was willing to trust you to take on that full-time position?
It meant a lot. I went right from being a high school assistant to a head college coach. It was intimidating to say the least. Like we talked about earlier, I had a very positive college athletic experience, and that's really the number one goal outside of making sure that these athletes get degrees and go on to successful careers. One of the most important things I think we can give our athletes is a very positive college athletics experience. So having to step into that role and make sure I was doing it right, that was a pretty daunting task. But to be kind of trusted to start the track and field program. That was a huge honor, I guess is the best way to put it. I couldn't have been happier when I got the word from Dr. Snook that we were going to move forward with starting the track and field program and everything that comes with that.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep momentum growing. You're in your fifth year with the institution, but to be able to be given word that the track and field program will be coming off the ground. Unfortunately, it's still coming off the ground with things being halted last spring, and hopefully looking forward to this coming spring. What would it mean to you that you successfully launched a track and field program at the college level, giving Cedar Crest another outlet for students to participate in athletics?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I always have a tough time kind of putting words to it, but the opportunities that track and field allows student athletes are, certainly well documented, not just in terms of representation in sport, but also as as far as, I got into the sport to stay in shape. We do have quite a few athletes on our team when it comes to track and field that are also on field hockey, soccer, and volleyball teams. So it's a great opportunity for those athletes to stay competitive in their off season, hopefully not get hurt. The
Yeah.
risk for injury is a lot lower in track and field. So to give the athletes that opportunity to stay in shape, stay competitive, and on an individual level, compete for medals and those spots on the podium, that's always, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And touching on how many student athletes are now becoming dual sport athletes for the sake of track and field will keep them in shape. It's a completely different atmosphere from their first sport to coming to track and field, where it's an entirely different entity in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's just another outlet, right? These athletes can have a different type of fun, I guess is the best way to put that, because they do get to compete on a little bit more of an individual level. I know that's something that some of those athletes have talked about in the past. They really just get to focus on themselves and how they're performing and getting fit for their events. So it's a nice outlet. And thinking of some of the soccer athletes specifically that throw or do sprints, it's an entirely different challenge on the body than soccer. And for volleyball too, with the throws, they're training for something entirely different. So they get to take their mind off of their volleyball season or their soccer season and really just focus on doing something a little bit different, and hopefully having a lot of fun with it. I try to get to as many throws and sprints practices as I can to make sure those athletes are doing what they need to be doing, and they are always a good time. The vibes are always great. Everybody's always laughing, and most importantly, getting the work in, but doing it in a way that they're having a lot of fun. And Coach Lee and Coach Nicole are both great at keeping the athletes engaged and happy. So couldn't be more happy about it.
And that's what my next point was going to be, is you do have assistant coaches and a coaching staff that will benefit you in track and field as well. With having that help, what does that mean to you, knowing that you've been like a specialty in distance, but having other minds to help you build this program? What does that mean to you?
Well, it's crucial. No matter how good of a coach you are in any sport, you're always gonna need someone else to provide a different angle, or a different opinion. It's the best way to solve problems. So to have Coach Lee, Coach Nicole, and Coach Jeff, they're all in their own rights incredible athletes. They both had, or all three of them had, really solid high school and college careers. And I know Coach Lee had some experience at the NAIA level before she came to us, and Coach Jeff had some experience at both the college and high school levels. Two of them both had some great athletes that they worked with, some national qualifiers, if I'm not mistaken, for both. So to have that support to work with those athletes in that respect, it's really it's great to have. It's a lot to be excited about in terms of getting some competition and seeing what we've been doing a lot of hard work with the athletes, obviously. And we did quite a bit of hard work last year as well before we had to shut down for COVID. To see it all pay off, I think is going to be huge, not just for us but for the athletes.
That first payout of going to your first track and field event, being there as a team to experience that together, is definitely going to be something to look forward to, hopefully this spring. But you've been at Cedar Crest for 5 years. What has kept you here? Obviously, the new track and field program launching is totally a part of that, but from the cross country side of things as well, a lot of improvements from when you started.
The biggest thing that's kept me here is the addition of the track and field team. I think it's something that I pushed for. I think from my first conversation with Dr. Snook before they even took me on, but really stressing the importance specifically for the cross country program of having that outdoor season and a full training calendar and being heard and listened to, and having the support of not only Dr. Snook but obviously the institution to bring the track and field program on, that was huge. The community that exists within the athletics department, campus in general, I believe all of us here as head coaches, this is our first head coaching position, so we're all learning together, and I don't think there's a single person in the office that I haven't turned to for a question, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So being able to have a department that's not just willing to but eager to help each other was certainly something that made me feel comfortable staying and comfortable taking on the daunting task of building and starting a track and field program.
So thinking back to last season, obviously this past fall we weren't able to compete due to the pandemic, but the previous season, who really stuck out to you in the cross country side of things that allowed you to have the finish you did at the CSAC championship?
Yeah, so fall of 2019, we had a great cross country team. We had a really strong freshman class. Emily Kern and Lily Jones really leading the pack with that crew. Gabby Sachs as a sophomore was our top runner throughout the season. So the three of them were great to have on the team. They all really gave me all they had in every workout, every practice. And I don't want to exclude names or people, but yeah, there wasn't a single athlete on that team that didn't work hard and give me everything they had on any given day. And it was just a special group of athletes, from the first runner down to number 9. I think we had 9 or 10 athletes on
Number
the
9, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, every single one of them could have been in the top 7, I think. And there's certainly, with having such a young squad, still a lot of room to grow. And I'm, really, really excited for when we can get back out on the course, because I think, they still have a lot to prove from that last season that we were out there. I know we had some goals that we set that we didn't quite achieve, and I know they're eager to get back out there and hopefully achieve those goals.
So switching to the track and field side of things, obviously you have an idea of what you would want to get accomplished, but without having a standard really set yet, what are you looking forward to the most for the start of the track and field program?
I think we have a really strong throws group. I don't want to give too much away, but Adriana Tennis from soccer, who is going to be throwing for us, Elise Podgorski and Kelsey Shoup, who are also throwing. I mean, they're watching them in practice has been incredible. I am very eager to get them, in the circle and on the runway. Our sprint jumps hurdles group is looking stellar. Nyla, Daria, any and all of those athletes just, can't wait to get them on the track and, show what we've been working towards. We did get 2 months to work with the team last year before we had to shut down. The momentum we had going, it was very unfortunate that we had to shut down when we did, because I think we were really on a good path. It's been a very strange year since we had to shut down for COVID. Everybody's, really picked up where we left off in terms of ability level. So really excited to hopefully continue that momentum moving forward. And then on the distance side of things, we have some athletes from field hockey and soccer who are joining the team. From field hockey, Kylie Marone, I think is going to have hopefully have a big season. She had a great end to her high school career, and it's obviously unfortunate for everybody that we weren't able to get on the track in the spring, but she's been doing great in practices so far. So really excited to see what she can do on the track. Yeah, Emily and Lily, like I said, they were such a staple and reason for the success of the cross country program in 2019. So excited to see how that translates to the track.
Yeah, excited is an understatement, I'm sure, for your student athletes trying to compete in their first track and field season, as well as you and the coaching staff. As we get closer to wrapping things up, asking the question that I did to Coach K in our first episode of the podcast, what have you learned about being a coach during such a difficult time and dealing with the pandemic?
The biggest thing I learned is to ask questions. We did talk a little bit before about the community that exists on within the department here, and I do ask a lot of questions of those coaches, and maybe sometimes too many questions. Reaching out to others in the track and field community. I have a pretty good relationship with obviously the coaching staff over at Moravian, being an alum, and most or at least half of that staff being the same as it was when I was an athlete there. But reaching out to other people that I've seen at meets, even if it's something as quick as an email, like, hey, had a quick question for you. And utilizing those resources has been huge. Like we talked about when I mentioned having the support of the assistant coaches here, just getting sometimes a different look at things, or even just seeing what somebody's doing when it comes to practices with different, things that we can and can't do because of the pandemic. It really helps to shine a different light on things, and keeps you first and foremost engaged with the sport in a time where it can be easy for athletes and frankly coaches to check out when we're not competing every day or maybe not practicing every day. Keeping those relationships going has been a big thing for me.
And that's tough to put it into words, but if you're putting yourself in the shoes of your athletes, what have you done to try to keep them engaged during such a time where it's so easy to check out, like you said, but to keep it in the mindset like we still have work to do once we can get back to it?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenging task. With the fall, I know if I'm not mistaken, the original announcement from the CSAC was that we were going to postpone. So the season started with the conversation of, well, we might still have a championship to compete for. So, regardless of what you think and how you feel, with what the outlook of the season is, we need to keep working towards it. And you know, cross country, we had the benefit of looking forward to the spring season with outdoor track. So once we did get the unfortunate news that we wouldn't be able to compete for a fall championship, the conversation immediately switched to, well, we still have outdoor track that we got to train for. And, those athletes knew from experience that a good solid training block from the cross country season was going to pay off when it comes to getting ready for that outdoor season. That conversation went, once we got word that we were going to not have fall championships, the conversation immediately changed to, all right, now we got to buckle up and prepare for the spring season. So, as challenging as it was, I think it was a little bit easier for me than some of our other fall sports, but it was still nonetheless a challenging task to keep everybody engaged.
And recruiting during a time of a pandemic, especially with events not really being able to happen, but at least in our area, there have been seasons happening. How was it recruiting during the time like this? If you can't go to events, how are you able, other than just looking at times?
That's kind of the basis of a lot of the recruiting on my end, is keeping track of times, and I am able to speak with athletes and start to build that relationship. I always try to open up the conversation to more than just times. I think the reason that I've been able to bring in some bigger classes is because most of our conversations aren't about training or running. It's about how's school been going, how are you doing, so things like that. I think it's really important to get to know the athlete as an individual, because practice only lasts for, what is it, an hour and a half a day, 2 hours most.
Hmm.
And for the other 22 and a half, 22 hours, they're people. So really getting to know them and make sure they're comfortable with me and my thoughts on training and things like that. And that's big. So it's really forcing those conversations now. It's forcing those conversations to not be about, oh, how was your meet last weekend? Because there probably wasn't a meet last weekend,
Yeah, correct.
So it's really getting to know those athletes as individuals and as people, and ultimately why they run, right? Because that's always going to boil down to individual experiences and things like that.
And as we wrap up here, what's the, I don't want to say expectation because it's an open book right now. You haven't had a season, but what are you most looking forward to coming up this spring?
Definitely the CSAC championship. Track and field championships are just fun. They're always very competitive. I think we can, like I said earlier, we can have a lot of success on individual levels, and hopefully on a team level if the individual level works well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's also very unique to the sports of cross country and track and field that you're guaranteed to participate in a championship if you have a program, and not every athlete's been able to experience a championship event, and that's unique, and it's special. There's really no other way to really describe it. But to be able to give those athletes championship experiences and to be able to compete for medals and places on the podium and to contribute to hopefully a good placing for the team, that's really what's driving the season forward right now.
That's great. Well, thank you again for joining me, Alec. Alec Duncan, the head cross country and track and field coach of the Cedar Crest College Falcons. Thanks again. Look forward to having you on later on in the season. Hopefully, after an event or two, we get things kicked off for the track and field program. So, thank you again, Alec, for joining me, and best of luck the rest of the year.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for tuning into On the Wing, the Cedar Crest Athletics podcast. To stay connected to all things Cedar Crest Falcons, head to our website at cedarcrestathletics.com. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And while you're at it, give Coach Alec and the Cedar Crest cross country and track and field accounts a follow as well. Thanks again for listening. I'm your host, LJ Smith, signing off.